I think that this is certainly going to be a team, win or lose in Game 3, that we need to keep an eye out for.
I absolutely buy that. Win or lose, let's see what happens. Game number 3 for Counterlogic Gaming versus Trifecta. And the red, white, and black will be on the right-hand side with the secondary selection. So the band's coming out. I expect to see the same standard stuff as far as Guan Yu and Terra banned out. Do you think we see...
They need to keep the honest ban. CLG banning the Ja. That was what they felt to be the primary concern for them, or one of them at least. I still feel as though Xbalanque might have maybe warranted some more concerns. Being able to kill all comms in a single moment for like 5 seconds is huge.
I like the Naja ban because as I said, and I'll double down on this, Mask doesn't always have to be the one completely carrying the game, but when Mask does poorly, Trifecta does poorly, and vice versa. If you give him the Naja, he's almost always going to have a great game. You talk about Magi's Cloak really kind of pushing him out of the scene, and it's true, but at the end of the day, ring toss and basic attacks can certainly tear up anything.
I think that if a player is good enough, they can probably work through a lot of the odds too. And Mask is definitely someone who is more than capable of overcoming those obstacles. As CLG, though, they're probably going to be very happy to be able to reclaim this Athena pick for themselves.
Trifecta on the other side, however, will have Ganesh. Can you do a Ganesh impression?
How do you? What is? Ganesh doesn't even talk.
No, he is a Ganesh.
He just hums.
Ganesh.
All he does is the om, like om. That's like literally the only sound I ever hear from my Ganesh ever.
I like that one. Hopefully, Neil will be a little bit more communicative than the Ganeshas that Taco plays with. And watching Trifecta, he has been. That's been another rookie, technically, even though he's been in the scene for a long time, that has impacted a Trifecta pretty highly. Ullr and Fafnir for CLG.
I love the Xbalanque pickup yet again, though, because there were a couple of ganks that Homie tried to make happen in the dual lane. And one in particular that I definitely remember. We were all sat there watching because Met throws out the Darkest Night, lands every single one of the auto attacks, and nearly ends up killing Homie had he not used his purification beads to cleanse the slow from Poison Dart.
And that's something that I want to say. If there was any question, you and I had no question, but if there was any question at home that Metyankey would show any rust because he spent the last year in the middle lane, well, there you go. Extended range basics, landing every single one of them. Met, shouts to you, buddy. Great job. Second round of bans coming out. One jungler, one hunter for Trifecta. No Artie, no Artemis. Not Artio. No Artemis and no Thor. And then the Rat and the Circuit banned out by CLG, keeping their eye on Mask. See, that's what I mean. 3 bans for the jungler. But, oh, never mind.
For good reason, though. Mask does tend to be the catalyst member for his team that gets things going. Hercules, no surprises here to see Trifecta choosing to strip that one away from fineokay yet again. Had way too sound of a performance. But Scary's got a nice hurt, too. Yep. I am really hoping that, it actually is going to be an Ullr middle. I was going to say, like, I hope that they give Hurriwind something he can choose to be aggressive on because he's going to need it against Paul.
Problem is, Raijin can really exploit players that don't have CC immunity. Without the ultimate available for Ullr, excuse me, that might be something that the Raijin could look to exploit. It's
the slows. I think that the slows can really heavily impact the Ullr, so CLG do need to be careful, but the Athena is very important here because Athena, I think, is a great complementary god for the Ullr. Make sure that he's never really left by himself.
That's very, very true. Nemesis bringing the slows. Nemesis last pick, by the way. Wow. Mask gonna get his Nemesis. Yeah, really. Like, what year is it?
Do you actually not know?
Yeah, 2002.
Well, it might as well be, considering the matchups that we have going on between Snoopy and Metyankey. Never thought it would be Hurriwind against Paul, though. In 2018.
I got Taco speechless. Anytime you can, like...
I didn't think you were actually going to keep that one going, I'll admit it.
When you can throw your caster for a loop like that, that's a slam dunk. I got to go celebrate. Game number 3, CLG versus Trifecta. Let's toss it a Finch and Tolly.
Yeah, that's right. It's Tolly here with me. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. It is Tom, right? I'm forgetting names now, apparently. That's the bit we're doing. But Taco is there with him as well. Thank you very much. Game 3 here between CLG and Trifecta. What more could you ask for?
the amount of momentum I think Trifecta is about to go into Game 3. It's important to see how CLG bounce back from this mentally. 16-1, I think, was the kill board at the end of that game. And when you lose that heavily, it's difficult to bounce back. But I think that CLG should be solid.
Well, we'll see how solid CLG will be indeed. Who do you think is going to win this game? Vote for us in the poll. Speaking of which, Mask's going to be playing the Nemesis. I mean, how good does it feel if 4 junglers get banned and the one and the 5th one you pick gets to be Nemesis? That's a good spot.
It's not too bad. Not too bad. I would have loved to see the Nemesis also the last game for Homiefe instead of the Mercury trying to shut down some of the Hercules. But this time it's Hercules and the Nemesis combined, and I think that's going to be a great combo of damage, trying to take somebody out of a fight in the late game.
It's going to be very difficult for them to deal with. We'll see how they try to do that as we move into Game 3. We are ready to get into the game, and we'll see just how well this double Hunter strat works out from CLG. They're going with the Ullr and with the Ram together, and then the 2 Guardians plus Warrior jungle.
The Fafnir is still like a heavily contested pick between these two teams.
Yeah.
Game 1, it was CLG first picking the Athena, but then Trifecta took the Fafnir away from them, so it was the Athena on Jigz. This time, CLG get the Athena and the Fafnir. They allow fineokay to get that global pressure Goddess of Wisdom as Jigz gets the greedy dwarf for the Fafnir. One of his favorite picks, actually.
It's very strong for Jigz. We've been able to see him play it at a pretty high level up to this point, and being paired up with these double hunters, like you mentioned, it just makes so much sense. Even Ravana, to a certain extent, can benefit from having some extra attack speed from that AoE coerce. Speaking of that Ravana, Homie going to be playing it without the beads, just the blink, going to be relying on that overhead kick to get him out of danger.
Something that Ravans can do very comfortably. Last game, Homiefe did not want to do that against the Naja out of Mask, and same that Mask did not want to do that against the Mercury. So respecting a lot of the crowd control, Mask will go for the beats on the Nemesis, making sure that he's not going to get locked down by this Athena and the Ullr combo. And Hurriwind playing the Ullr, it's a different style than what he's been playing the last 2 games, where between going from the Giannis, going into the Raw, but this is going way back to Season 3 when he was with CLGaming and Homiefe as well, when they would play Ullr out Kwong very often together.
But I like this, though. If Paul's always going to be looking to box and looking to fight, an Ullr probably just going to win most of those boxing matchups, right? So give Hurriwind, like Taco said in the desk, a matchup that'll probably win. If Paul gets over aggressive, Hurriwind can easily punish now.
That's the adaptations that CLG need to do, and that's what they're doing thus far. Even trying to adapt to Metyankey's aggression at the beginning of the last game. He was looking to box, he was looking to try to build up that passive stacks, but Metyankey not going to be able to do so, as Jigz and Snoopy playing very carefully and methodically in that duel lane.
I kind of have to make sure they're being careful. Metyankey wants to build up as much of that passive damage as he can early on that Xbalanque. You have an early 2v2 here. Well, not too early. I guess it's the jungle, mid, Mask, and Homie coming to join up with their mid laners. Right buff is going to spawn in a moment for Trifecta, but still a little bit later. So CLG actually have a chance. They want to try and come up and contest. It looks like they are going aggressive into the jungle, maybe looking for speed.
It's possible. Speed buff is a very highly contested one, but this is going to be a 2-0. He even blinked to get to the speed buff a little bit closer.
They didn't know.
He gets the speed buff, and he doesn't really need that overhead kick because he just has that sheer extra mobility. Mask without the double dash, just has to walk away. Great timing.
It really was. For a moment, Mask and Paul both went towards the mid lane, and that was the only second that Homie needed to be able to completely strip away that speed buff. It goes their way. Mask gets there just a step too late, and that's a successful invade. What a call, really.
Snoopy not really respecting the damage from NeiruMah and Metyankey as he's out of health potions. Metyankey still sitting with 1 in his pocket. NeiruMah able to really lead the charge if they wanted to. As the purple buff to respawn, they can easily look for invade out of Trifecta's side.
Looks like it is going to be Mask on this side as Jigz is low. Not going to make it quite in time to try and look for a gank, but Hurriwind is going to rotate here too. We got a 3v3, just maybe not the 3 that you would expect. Jigz is going to use the sprint. The axe is going to land on NeiruMah. Jigz takes too much poke and has to retreat. The fight causes 2 sprints to be used, but no one dies.
It was a good axe, but it was not the target that he definitely would have wanted. Would have wanted to catch one of the squishier targets out of Mask or Metyankey, at least force out one of those defensive relics, but sprint for sprint being used in a 3v3 potential encounter gets negated. But CLG still on the back foot. They have to hide under their own tier 1 tower. They're not getting a lot of these last hits that they need. And normally when you do this kind of strategy, it's normally to bait the opposition to get closer to your tower so you can have some sort of rotations.
Right.
But so far, Homiefe has not been present in this dueling.
I'm a little bit surprised that we're seeing Snoopy and Jigz be the ones that get pushed back in, because Jigz kind of, he went for the chalice, as opposed to NeiruMah, who went for the boots 1. A lot of times you see that gold used to upgrade sprints, but instead that's the difference, a little bit of extra movement and early step into the boots as opposed to a little bit extra health from Jigz. But even with that extra sustain, Jigz has been getting pushed out.
It's been a little troublesome for CLG's duo lane, but that's only the early game. That's the advantage that Trifecta has between the Xbalanque and Ganesha, as the Spirit Ball augments a little bit of additional damage to his allies, whereas Snoopy and Jigz are waiting for that coerce to become online, waiting for Jigz to pick up Shogun's Kusari, waiting also for Snoopy to finish off the pick-me-up second ability out of Rama.
Yeah, you could just as easily interpret, you know, the chalice as a recognition that they're going to be behind here in the lane. It wants to have some sustain so it can still stick around. So if it doesn't work to help them play more aggressive, it works to help them play a little more passive. And Jigz and Snoopy, like you said, will have plenty of time to make it to a point where they can stand toe-to-toe with NeiruMah and Metyankey over here in the dual lane, as we actually Mask and Homie potentially meeting in the jungle.
This time, Mask gets his own speed buff, but there's a 1-level differential. Homiefe, as he stripped that one away, now thinking about rotating for these oracles. Red buff being confirmed out of Trifecta. Nemesis with fully finished boots. Going for the katana option. Probably going to see the hasten katana. Mask really likes gods that could be built into hasten katana, whereas Homiefe going for the penetration route. I wouldn't be surprised to see any penetration item realistically, but would prefer to see that Jotun's Wrath to get a 20% cooldown reduction and look for more Mystic Rushes.
Yeah, I believe Mask has started at tier 1 of the katana tree every game so far. He played the Mercury already, and I think that's where he's, like you said, that's what he likes to build into. It's certainly his comfort. We talked about that a lot with Paul, but it's the same with a lot of these Trifecta members. They get exponentially better when they're able to build, play, and react comfortably. Speaking of reacting, CLG have the Gold Fury with the AoE Coerce. I think this is theirs, and Trifecta do not know this is happening.
Double Hunter composition, starting things off right with a 6-minute Gold Fury. It spawns at 5 minutes. It lasted for 1 minute and 15 seconds before CLG able to strip away that one. Trifecta caught a little slipping, didn't have any sort of wards even close within the vicinity. I'm pretty sure Paul was doing either his buffs or backing from the base.
And ordinarily, I can forgive one of those happening, even at the SPL level, because that's early, and they're going for it very quickly. But against Double Hunter Fafnir, I think you got to be prepared for that totally. You got to have vision. You got to know where people are on the map.
It's true. That vision needed to be there a little earlier, but the amount of pressure that Trifecta applied to the dual lane as NeiruMah sat there the whole entire time didn't have any windows to look for the back into finishing off those shoes of focus, surprisingly enough, or pick up any wards.
Another good bounce back. This series has been so back and forth. This time it's CLG who kind of respond to that punch from Trifecta in Game 2 by going with the Double Hunter comp, giving a better matchup against Paul, and using that composition to get objectives early. It is just the first step towards them being able to claim a victory here, but they're taking that first step confidently.
It was a best of 3 with both teams winning Game 1 and 2. It's now the best of 1 as Paul, right next to NeiruMah, recognizes that right around the corner there's a couple members, and around CLG's blue buff, Scary D and Mask trying to make it happen.
Driving strike lands the boulders enough. Scary D finds fineokay in the 2v2 with Homiefe there as well. Jungle solo goes the way of Trifecta, and that's actually first blood over to their side as well.
The Nemesis and the Excavate out of the Hercules combo, you shred the health, you shred the protections, all of a sudden this Excavate is hitting you like a semi at that point, and it's just too hot to handle out of fineokay when he's only sitting at the tier 2 Breastplate of Valor or without having any sort of realistic health to play with.
And this is a good gank attempt here by Trifecta to come over and try and punish this Athena in the solo lane. You talked about it earlier. It's something fineokay and Jigz can both play very well. Well, you can't just let the Athena get to the point where she's taunting you all game for free. Punish her over here in solo. Trifecta did it perfectly.
And CLG are kind of waiting for this Athena rotation in the dual lane. That global pressure going to be important to swing the dual lane back in CLG's favor, and Trifecta not taking that bait. But the best way to deal with the Athena is not force any team fights away from her.
Yeah.
You bring the team fight to her, so that makes her Defender of Olympus a lot more difficult to be useful, as you're trying to probably at that point use it to disengage. And I think it's a 3-second channel that's a pretty big enough window for ScariD's Excavate to find at least a double bounce.
That was even with Homiefe right there with them. Just nothing could do to try and help keep fineokay alive. So in the end, that kill going the way of Trifecta. Another good response. They're just trading blows, these two teams. Trifecta win game 2. CLG bounced back by getting an early Gold Fury, while Trifecta bounced back by getting an early gank on fineokay and punishing him. And now they want to do it again. fineokay, channel defender of Olympus, so he is going to make it out of there, but that's his ultimate down.
Surprised I didn't see the Excavate between those two walls. That could have been a double or even a triple bounce.
Sure.
Very easy to find the damage, especially with the Nemesis ultimate that reduces so much of your protections.
Good timing, though. CLG are going to be here for the red buff, and now the Dharmic Pillars come out from NeiruMah, who felt a ton of aggression. Draconic Corruption comes out. Jigz wants to control this red buff pit, and I think they will. Hurriwind comes over, and CLG successfully steal red buff yet again.
Paul not able to really make any plays happen without his red buff, and I think that's the strategy that CLG are employing by this Ullr pick in the mid lane, by even looking for some of these red buff invades. Trifecta are a little bit on the back foot, even though they did find the kill. Losing some of these red buffs is still keeping CLG in the game, plus the Gold Fury.
That's helping out a lot. And you mentioned Paul. He's been relatively quiet so far with Hurriwind on a Hunter, but take a look. Is that a defensive option potentially coming out for Paul?
Surprise.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not a good choice, just a little surprise for Paul.
Could be a Dynasty plate helmet trying to get that bridge item, considering that Homiefe will not allow Paul any breathing room with this level 1 Blink Relic selection. Not a bad choice to get a little bit of physical protections and still get some early pen.
I kind of like it, actually. If he does want to box against Hurriwind, which I know that he does, that actually kind of makes that a little bit more viable, right? With the Hunter mid, Homie, though, blinks in. Mystic Rush, the immediate follow-up. The Fear, though, pushes Homie away and does a ton of good damage as well. Mask trying to follow up on it. He drops the ultimate, and Paul finds the shot. Second kill for Trifecta.
Hurriwind's not done, but he doesn't respect NeiruMah. Right on the backhand side, slice and dice at the knockup. Hurriwind, what were you doing?
Just going a little bit too far, and a timely rotation from NeiruMah to lock him down with the Ohm Silence. Perfectly at peace and perfectly back at base. Trifecta now 3-0, at least in the kill column. A great start.
Now, Homiefe definitely calculated what he wanted to do offensively between forcing the jump away and then timing the Mystic Rush to hit Paul, but didn't really respect the fact that during the taiko drums, you're going to be able to get thwarted away. The Fears constantly prevents any sort of action or tower dive potential.
And that's why the blink is important. Homie could have potentially beads through that and kept hammering away at Paul while he was up on top of the drums. Instead, he needed to go over the initiation factor, and that meant the Fear underneath the tier 1 tower was just too strong.
That's true, but without the blink, you're not even getting in position to make that play happen in the first place. So, damn if you do, damn if you don't. I like the mindset, though, that CLG are trying to shut down this Raijin because of how much of a nightmare it could really be in the late game.
And these oracles are really important for Trifecta, too, right? That uncontestable vision right here, because CLG have been sneaking objectives. So now they'll have a way that can't be contested. Paul, please, you might be dead here, buddy.
Nope,
he's able to just barely make it out.
Excavate.
Scary D, though, with the boulder, is doing more than enough. Sprint has to come out from CLG so they can go for the run, but Matt's not going to let him. Aegis survives the slice and dice, but the hammer is too much.
The Athena ultimate was misplaced, unfortunately. Homiefe got in the way. ScariD gets taunted, doing a little bit of damage, but no follow-up stun from Jigz. It was used earlier on, and that's a clean disengage. Trifecta, they walk away on the kill with Hurriwind and save Paul in the process.
Yet another kill goes the way of Trifecta. These early fights based around Mask's Nemesis has been so strong for them. And I think Tom put it very well earlier. When Mask does well, Trifecta does well. They play through him so well as a team that when Mask's able to get those big ultimates, everyone's right there to follow up.
He's just making the plays happen, whether it's offensively onto fineokay about 5-6 minutes ago, or where it's the counter engages in the mid lane on top of Hurriwind for his second death already 13 minutes into the game. He's trying to play aggressive with this Ullr, but unfortunately it's been not working out as Trifecta, that was playing aggressive a lot in a lot of these games, have made these small changes to kind of bait CLG into sticky situations.
It was indeed, though, the Dynasty plate helmet palm side to go with. Still gives you a pretty good pen option, so he is still going to have that for him as well, but also provides the protections that he desperately needs up against Homiefe and Hurriwind when they aggress. Potentially could have been a difference maker there for him to allow Paul to live just long enough.
Without the penetration on Hurriwind, it's difficult to break through that 35 fist prod. Homiefe, a little bit of pen with a Yoden's Wrath, but needs slightly more.
Totally, it's just a helmet. Should it do that much? How much protection can just one helmet provide?
It's a lot.
Apparently, I guess.
Saves you from the one-shot potential in a lot of other games.
That's right, yeah. Could get you from, maybe getting tapped out, Ends up working in favor for Paul here. A little bit of a deviation from his normal build path, but I like it because this shows that Paul is still doing him. Paul's still playing the way Paul likes to play, but he'll make these adjustments on the fly that he has to the aggression from CLG. I mean, that's such a good sign for Trifecta going forward.
He's not the one dashing in. He's the one dashing out, baiting CLG because of his name, honestly. And when he has that many games played in ranked and you're #1 in Grandmasters, you have a target on your head. It doesn't matter if you came from the minor league. CLG trying to abuse this rookie, and they're getting punished for it.
Yeah, there's a certain level of you can't just come in here and be good right away, kid. Well, maybe he can. I mean, this is just one game here up against CLG. It's a lot of Smite that is to be played, so we don't want to extrapolate too far from it. But if you just take it for what it is, Paul's looking strong, and Trifecta grouping around the Gold Fury to not give CLG a chance to sneak in.
I mean, he's just an SPL player. His positioning in the backside, waiting for the follow-up, waiting for the setup, rather, so that he can do his job, get that long-range percussive storm on the line as fineokay needs to find a way to stop this Gold Fury.
Gold Fury's at half health. Scary D is zoning away Homie, who cannot come in and try and contest. On the backside is going to be Jigz, but Paul has already taken down fineokay, and they've secured the Gold Fury mask, and Scary D now trying to lock down the Dragon, who has a sprint ticking, but will it be enough?
Waiting for it to wear off before applying the slow yet
Double
again.
blink.
Going on to Jigz. He didn't have the jump, and that's 2 clean picks. And the Gold Fury Trifecta at 6-0, 15.5 minutes in. They don't have that much of a goalie, but this is where things can get dicey. 20 seconds on fineokay, and Jigz can get this tier 1 tower in mid, maybe even tier 2 if they find Hurriwind.
Beads and Aegis both had to be used. Now he's silenced. Nowhere to go. Scary D finds the last hit, and Hurriwind's down 7 unanswered kills will make it answered as Snoopy actually able to get the solo kill in the Metyankey over in duo. That's going to put the brakes on just a little bit as Trifecta go towards the Pyromancer.
Having the beads and the Aegis, didn't use it, realized that he was death. I'm not sure if he used his dash to clear a wave, to clear a buff camp or whatnot, but great recognition that Snoopy had to at least isolate the opposing enemy hunter and finding a response kill. Putting his team on the board is still good mentally, making sure that no one is drained, making sure that everyone still has their eyes on the prize.
And that was a pretty important kill. Don't forget, Metyankey swapped over from the mid lane to make room for Paul and took that spot that Zatman used to be in. So Snoopy, very much an old pro here in that hunter role, kind of putting it to Met as he readjusts back over to the hunter role.
I mean, I don't care if your name is Metyankey or Zatman. Snoopy is going to put the work on you in any given moment. And if you don't respect his presence, especially when he's playing the Rama at the level 14 marker, he's going to punish you.
And that's exactly what he did here with Metyankey. So that kill does help out a lot, but don't underestimate just how much Trifecta being able to grab. You point out, though, it's not hugely reflected in the gold. It's only about 2,000 that they're out in front. It's not as if CLG... it's not as if all hope is lost. It's only a 2,800 experience lead. Despite all the kills, despite how good Trifecta have looked, CLG are right there.
It's because of how slow the first game was that it feels that this lead is a lot bigger than it actually is. So these teams were really feeling each other out in that first game where it was about 2-1 in the kill column. Snoopy forced to go into the sky after the Divine Judgment. They get some pot shots off, a good amount of damage, but it's Homiefe trying to follow up.
Now he's got to be careful. Paul is rotating this as well. Blink goes in. The Aegis comes out from Metyankey to keep himself alive, and now Paul has arrived. Homie takes down Metyankey already, but the Taiko drums are going to pull fineokay back into the rest of the team. Taunt comes out, though, to try and disrupt some of the damage, and Scary D wants to come in to try and say hello.
fineokay absorbed so much damage, and Scary D needs to be that buffer to keep his tier 2 tower alive. That tier 1 will not survive that 10% health. Scary D in a driving strike away just in the nick of time. Needs to give up this tier 1 tower. fineokay dashes in, finds the pull. There's not much follow-up next to Scary D. It's only NeiruMah, but we'll still look for those kinds of plays because any sort of disruption you could do will inevitably delay the tier 2 tower siege or prevent people from backing so that the healthy Trifecta members can now clean up.
That's 2 quick deaths from Metyankey, which is going to hurt, but a potential pick here on Snoopy would be very good. The lockdown from NeiruMah misses. The boulder doesn't land either. Aegis comes out to immune the damage, but Mask waits it out and takes Snoopy down. Finally, they get a return kill onto the hunter.
That's why Scary D was just using everything just for that 10% tower health. Allows enough of a window for Mask to make this rotation with such a high mobile build between the boots, the Hasten Katana, and also the Heartseeker. He was able to get back into it to find a clean pick. And with 25 seconds dead on Snoopy, it's a 5-on-4 advantage for Trifecta that can get any tower they want.
Yeah, they're staying grouped. They want to try and force down this tier 1 in mid, while CLG are still a little bit disjointed. And it looks like that is going to work for them. No answer onto the tier 1, and they bring that one down. But that was a good response that they need to have. And we kind of saw why Homie prioritized the blank early on, right? That's how he closed the gap and was able to get to Metyankey. By this point, he has both relics anyway, but it was able to put the hurt on him early before Paul could rotate it.
Had the awareness to stutter step during the darkest of nights right before the stun was applied. Blinked immediately after. Caught Metyankey by surprise. He didn't have the dash available as he tried to run away after that tier 1 tower siege. And if the shots from Snoopy didn't connect on that ultimate,
right,
he would not, Metyankey would not have been in that lethal range for Homiefe to clean up on.
That helped bring him down, like you said, into an area where Homiefe could take out that last bit of damage necessary to finish off the kill. Excellent play from CLG, even from behind, to be able to make that call that they could push up into the duo lane, not just get a kill, but get the tower. They give up Snoopy on the back end and the tier 1 tower in mid, so it ends up being pretty even, but CLG still scrapping.
It's a lot of back and forth action as we approach the 20-minute mark. It's all about once this Fire Giant starts to get looked at, and that's going to happen once there's some Shogun's Kusari for both of them. The co-wars from Jigz maybe could allow CLG to go for it sooner than Trifecta can, but the damage is where it's really going to count. Nemesis, Xbalanque, you get a little bit of attack speed on those two characters, and then Trifecta are melting the objectives just as fast as any composition with the Fafnir.
That is one thing, though. This double hunter comp, it's not going to reach like an expiration date or anything. It's just going to keep getting better, right? Having 2 hunters is always pretty good. So CLG gonna have a chance to match up with Trifecta if Trifecta don't keep their foot on the gas. Gold Fury is where they're gonna do the dance, as all 10 members of the whole game are here.
Now there's pros and cons for double hunter, and that's the fact that hold that thought though, because a nice driving strike onto Jigz, getting him out of position, but fineokay with a taunt forces Metyankey back away while Mask and Homie duke it out on the right side.
Metyankey drops the ultimate that forces CLG to consider retreating for now. Snoopy gets caught the moment he lands, though, and Paul is the one that provides the damage. Jigz is the next one in trouble. Gets pulled right back in by Scary D. Nowhere for him to jump to, and Mask gonna keep finding the in-hands, and he brings him down. That's gonna be yet another kill for Trifecta.
Scary D is not done yet. He blinks into that tier 2 tower. He wants blood. He wants Hurriwind. He has that 3-level lead. Driving strikes him outside of the tower. Excavate for the lethal.
The boulder puts him down. Hurriwind, we'll see you later, buddy. 3 more members of CLG sitting on respawn timers. fineokay is here to try and contest, but they disrupt him immediately. They just drop it. They turn, and they burn him. Where can you go, Athena? 4 members of CLG down. Trifecta are here to play.
Fire Giant has to be the call immediately after. It's only Homiefe up. Jigz and Snoopy are due to respawn in a moment's notice, but no, they're going to disengage, try to purchase some of their items, and look to replenish their mana.
What a game here from Trifecta. Are you kidding me? 4,000 gold, or just about out in the lead now. More like 3,500, but they're up 10 kills over CLG here at this point, 22 minutes into this contest. They responded very well to that first game from CLG, and they've been playing to their identities here, totally. I'm loving it.
This Hercules pick between both of the teams has been very valuable, whether it's fineokay or Scary D. They both really are accurate with some of their pull pushes, getting people in very awkward spots to follow up on. Paul going to follow up, and look at Jigz' health pool. He's at 33%. He took about 33 to 40% of his health bar at a level 13 Fafnir, whereas the rest of Trifecta are all sitting pretty doing the Pyromancer. They can still look for even more if Scary D wants.
Yeah, for a moment they were considering the Fire Giant, but then they instead go over to the Pyromancer. And you talk about the poke they got onto Jigz. They didn't have to commit much to that at all. That's part of the strength of this Trifecta roster, is that Paul can find good damage from range. Really, so can Metyankey, without putting themselves too far in danger, thanks to the pulls from Scary D.
Trifecta are really making their draft work for them, and they baited out that Athena first pick for CLG just to get that Xbalanque that they really wanted to. Metyankey uses that ultimate Darkest of Nights, however, the taunt onto 2, and because of the ultimate from Xbalanque, there's no follow-up, and fineokay is isolated.
Now fineokay could be in trouble. Axe lands on the NeiruMah, and Snoopy looks for a few more shots. Mid-Guardian is pretty good, though, as a response, so Snoopy cannot keep ticking in. CLG thought about the Fire Giant, but just couldn't do it.
Not able to make anything happen quite yet, as fineokay still rather healthy. despite being alone, dashed onto Scary D, but where's the follow-up? Snoopy is isolated away from Mask, getting the pull and the push. Paul looking to isolate one on the left. It was actually Hurriwind on the south end, while Mask forces to retreat on the top.
Paul's going to continue trying to fight this out with fineokay on the bottom side. Homiefe is waiting to loop around. He has a chance to come in on the Mask. He finds him on the backside. Metyankey takes down the enemy. Hunter 1v1. Scary D finds Jigz as well. Paul was able to make it away from Homie, and it's a 2v1 in favor of Trifecta. Scary D not going to let fineokay get out of here for free, though. Pulls him right back in.
But where's the follow-up? Nobody's next to him. Scary D needs to back off because Homiefe was diving that backline. NeiruMah had to peel away. He couldn't save his jungler in time, but he popped the shell to allow Mask some more breathing room. Now Homiefe on top of the defender of Olympus could look for a little bit more damage. Hurriwind's right beside them.
NeiruMah is kind of all alone here. Hurriwind comes in to provide the much needed damage, and that's too bad for Neil. The defender of Olympus gets fineokay right back into the action, and they're able to punish the support for Trifecta.
CLG are not deterred to still look for plays. Despite feeling like this game is getting out of control, they're looking for the engagements out of fineokay, and it's been working out. You know, they're trying to get some of the relic timings, and more importantly was the way that Homiefe was able to really penetrate that backline and eliminate Mask. Without that jungler, there was a lot of DPS being removed. Paul needed some peels and protections. That's what really stopped that teamfight from getting too far into Trifecta's grasp.
Yeah, without that play from Homie, I think they lose that fight front to back. I can't believe Homie wasn't able to get Paul as well. In all honesty, they were both very low health, Mask and Paul on the backside, and Homiefe identified it perfectly, rotated in, and shuts down that Fire Giant siege. Now Scary D is going to take a bit of poke himself.
Healing it all back up because he uses the mitigate wounds right before the taunt, so any sort of damage you're taking is about to augment that healing. Scary D avoids the taunt and actually pulls out Hurriwind, forced to jump over the wall.
Ultimate comes out from Metyankey, and once again the disengage has to come on. Dharmic pillars are going to come out from Neil, and the shots are coming in. On the backside though, Homiefe wants Paul, but the fear is coming out from the Tycho drums, and he's able to get the Thunder Crash. Now Homie is the one that gets punished. Mask finds him, and fineokay could potentially be in trouble as well.
Wow, how did he get away? Mask is not done with Hurriwind quite yet. Double dashing right into it. Scary D with a driving strike. It's a 5-on-3. CLG are on the retreat. Trifecta, though, they're not interested with the towers quite yet. This Fire Giant looking mighty tasty for him.
A lot of talk about Paul's aggression, but we got to give plenty of credit to Paul's ability to be an escape artist as he somehow makes it out of that one, using the Tycho drums perfectly. The Thunder Crash available right when he needed it thanks to the Chronos pendant, and now Fire Giant going to be going over to Trifecta. That's a huge play. They commit so much on the Paul.
Finch, never forget, wear a helmet. That's why Paul is leading it, honestly. Whenever you're riding your bicycle down the road, get that thing going, because that 35 physical protection saved his life.
What a big adjustment he made, and now going 1v1 against Snoopy. If he can get those abilities back up, Snoopy is very much dead. You need to be careful over here on the dual lane side as Paul. Thunder crashes in, the in-hand's all he needed. Snoopy just too far forward.
Level 20 Raijin with the red buff, with the Fire Giant buff. That was destined for Snoopy to fail that encounter, but he tried to make something happen with the tier 2 tower. Just didn't really expect anyone to make that rotation in the nick of time, but Paul was there.
Yeah, sometimes you have one of those random encounters, you just aren't the right level yet, and you kind of get handled, and that's kind of what happened there for Snoopy as he ends up falling. Gold Fury now going to be going the way of Trifecta pretty handily, and we'll see how well that ends up working for them. Gold Fury goes to Trifecta. That's going to push this gold lead down to 9,200.
Almost 5 digits on the board for them thus far. 11,000 experience as they approach the 28-minute mark. CLG need to find a way to bounce back into this. A lot of it can be said onto the Athena dash taunts, but I was gonna say there's earlier on in the game, before there was a lot of action, there's a lot of pros and cons towards CLG's draft. Like, yes, they have the double Hunter and the Fafnir to really boost that, but their magical damage slightly lacking. They don't have the traditional mage. Now, they do have 2 heavy hitting guardians between the Fafnir and the Athena, but if you look at that player damage, they're at the bottom. And it's a lot easier to build a physical defense to handle Homiefe, Hurriwind, and Snoopy. You're looking at Scary D that has the Merguardian mail. He's able to slow down some of their attack speed. Another Merguardian mail onto NeiruMah. Surprised not to see a Horrific Emblem upgraded, but that's still A-okay with the fully upgraded Sprint and Shell out of NeiruMah.
And totally, allow me to like zoom out for a moment, because Trifecta last split, even going into week 6, they had a chance to make it to land. I think at the start of week 6, 6. Very early on, it was stripped away from them, but they were close. If Trifecta are somehow better, I mean, that could shake up everything here in NA. E-United drops to Space Station in the first game of North America. The door is kind of open. If Trifecta want to try and find their way in, they're going to take this Tier 2 tower and right, and North America's getting just as tough as EU.
It's Season 5 in summer. This is when the teams are starting to figure it out a little bit and separate themselves from the pack, as Trifecta was very close to making the land. So was CLG.
They were both, yeah.
Yeah, CLG was very close to it at the beginning, faltered towards the end. And this could be the opposite effect, where they're faltering towards the beginning. They need to figure things out because the composition works occasionally, but Trifecta are making it look a lot worse than it really is.
Trifecta doing a really good job here in this game. And what this is really showing is that there aren't going to be any weaknesses in this Trifecta roster. You're not going to be able to just look for Paul. You're not going to be able to just look for Metyankey and get a free win. You got to beat them straight up in this game. And so far, CLG have not been able to do it. This game's not over yet, but Trifecta in a good spot as they grab the last Tier 2 tower remaining on the map. 40+ seconds still on this Fire Giant buff if they want to try and take mid-Phoenix.
Scary D leading the charge on the Hercules play as Metyankey is going to clear out some of the minions, as there's still another 35 seconds on this Fire Giant buff, but Trifecta recognizing this, don't want to overextend. There's still some 6 items that could be completed. NeiruMah needs to finish off one of his items, could also sell off that blessing. Same thing with Metyankey as he's working on his crit.
Yeah, there's no punish to the crit from Metyankey either on the side of CLG. No thorns, no reflect of any kind. He's going to be able to get away with this scot-free. I wouldn't mind seeing him go all in on that crit, really. He just finished off the Titan's Bane.
It's possible if he wants to sell the Executioner, now that he does have the Titan's Bane, to go wrap it up with the Deathbringer.
Oh, yeah.
If that's the case. Scary D sold an item. Will get reflect damage for himself. I was curious as to what that item was going to be.
He's got the Midgarden and the High-Demand Lion, so the crit from Metyankey going to be swinging free. Meanwhile, the 2 hunters for CLG will not if it's Scary D at the front of the fight, and you know that he will be. Midgardian to slow and Demand Lion to reflect, plus the Wing Blade to let him move through the slows of CLG. It's going to be very hard to take down this Hercules.
I almost want to see the damage taken and mitigated out of this Hercules, because he's already 7-0-5, and with this height of Nemean Lion, it's going to be even more difficult to lock him down with the mitigate wounds as well, to be able to heal that back up. Still a little bit of anti-healing this time from Homiefe with a Brawler Speed Stick.
But totally, is Homie going to be putting damage
No,
on Scary? Like, not
at all,
right?
Never.
That is not going to help them against this Herc.
That's true. You're never really going to be applying it. Maybe would have liked to see a Pestilence out of Jigz, but he needs to be in the back line to be able to peel for his teammates. He did pick up the Curse Donk with the upgrade, so that's going to be the one thing going for them. That's the window that they really need to exploit Scary D.
See if they can try and punish this Hercules if he overcommits. No defense on the Fire Giant from CLG. This is the normal call. They're instead going to stand back and just defend the Phoenixes. Look at those sentry wards they have. That's going to allow them to catch any aggressive wards from Trifecta, trying to catch them rotating from Phoenix to Phoenix. CLG are bunkered down, and they're going to try and make their last stand.
Going for a team fighting item. NeiruMah with a Pythagram's Piece. I love this item to get some more lifesteal for some of your teammates. Jigz, who should be able to counter that with that Curse Donk as well, but it doesn't last forever, so there will be windows for Trifecta to disengage after that relic and reapply the pressure.
Yeah, plus it increases not just his damage, but Paul's as well, so that aura going to be a big deal for what Paul wants to do on this Raijin. And I mean, can we talk about how well he's been doing? 4-0-5, has yet to fall here in this game. He even has the mid guardian. Is that what that is in the 3rd slot there? He really wants defense there to try and make sure he's not getting taken down by these hunters.
He sold the helmet and he put on the plate, and that's going to be the difference.
That is better than a helmet, totally. I got to tell you.
Not when you're riding your bike.
Yes, if you're riding a bike, put on a helmet, not a big suit of armor. That's fair.
I mean, you're going to be so slow in the suit of armor. Like, let's be real.
That's why Achilles
There's no mobility.
Wears armor. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotta go the shuttless build.
Jigz brought down to 60% just from Paul's poke. That was the Soul Reaver proc to another 20 seconds as fineokay taunts in Scary D. They actually burst him very well, but driving strike plus mitigate wounds means that he's fine, and Jigz is not deleted by Metyankey and the big crits. Phoenix on left-hand side already done. 5v4. Trifecta Trifecta ready to break the base of CLG.
They got the Titan exposed and vulnerable, but they're not pressing down that room. Scary D gonna need to take a little bit of a different route as the rest of his teammates now grouping up in the mid lane. This mid Phoenix could be trouble. There goes the taunt, but keep in mind, with the death from Jigz, there is no sprint or cursed Ankh available for CLG's defense.
That's not who they want to taunt either. Scary D doing a perfect job of zoning away CLG and getting important cooldowns down. He's going to teleport right back in, I'm assuming, though. He'll be right back to join up with the squad. It'll be a 5v4 push onto the Phoenix.
Trying to teleport in the left side. Will regroup now with a 5-on-4. Jigz still dead for 5 seconds. Blink by Mouse. Trying to go into Hurriwind. Will forced to jump away, but it's Snoopy that's in trouble instead.
Mid Phoenix has already fallen. Mask isn't getting incredibly low on the backhand side, but Homie is forced to use Mystic Rush defensively. Jigz going to be the front line for the team, but the damage already been done. Mid Phoenix and Phoenix on the left-hand side have fallen, and Trifecta look controlled, they look calm, and they look poised to try and take this game.
And Trifecta didn't want anything to do with the respawning Jigz. Instant disengage. They don't even go for the right side Phoenix, despite having so much time remaining on that Fire Giant buff, 1.5 minutes to be exact. The Phoenix on the left was exposed. Some Fire Minions trickled down. Gonna take away a couple of health of the Titan, still sitting at about 7,500 health. And there could be an all-in potential from Trifecta if they really wanted to with 2 Phoenixes down, but instead, they're going to be very patient and methodical the way they've been the whole entire set.
That's right. I mean, Trifecta, yes, they've been aggressive, but I think that they have been methodical. When I first heard it from the desk, I wasn't so sure. I mean, Paul's going in all the time, Matt's going in all the time, looking for fights, occasionally getting punished. But when you look back at this whole picture, Trifecta, they look methodical. They know when they're going in, they're forcing off cooldowns, they're making you take fights you don't want, and they've been punishing CLG.
They're now in the driver's seat with a commanding 20,000 gold lead. Struggling as CLG to complete their 6 items. They need to be able to hold this right side Phoenix to make sure their Titan doesn't go down, and they come out strong in week 1 because the mentality is a big thing for a lot of these teams as the weeks progress. There's 6 weeks total.
Now, only about 30 seconds left on this Fire Giant buff, Totally, if they want to try and take this Phoenix on the right-hand side. Everyone from CLG is here for the defense as well. They all have their beads and Aegises available, so they'll be very safe. Or rather, Snoopy does not have Aegis. He could be an easy target here for Trifecta with only the CC immunity.
It's possible that they can go on him. They recognize that the way that they did with Mask blinking in, that could be another option. The pull is good onto fineokay. He gets disrupted with a push. Divine Judgment and the Excavate will be used. Dharmic Pillars just to deter the defense. Right side Phoenix still being looked at. Jigz trying to do what he can, and fineokay dashes in onto Mask.
Scary D is on Snoopy on the backhand side, not able to get him, but fineokay taunted back in by the Tycho drums, but Hurriwind has actually found Mask and punished him. Homiefe has now found Metyankey as well. Scary D taunted back in, and Snoopy's there with the shots. Paul too far forward, he falls to a double kill from Homiefe. CLG showing signs of life underneath the right hand Phoenix. They're not ready to go just yet.
Everyone's just going on different targets. Paul is going on to Hurriwind. Scary D is trying to go on to Snoopy. There needs to be more cohesion on the same target if Trifecta want to close out this game, because now there's 3 dead members. That's plenty of time for Trifecta or for CLG to at least get some towers and defend both of their lanes to allow the left side Phoenix to respawn.
Trying to get a little more gold. Finish off these last few items. Snoopy's still not done with his build. Hurriwind still not done with his. Neither is Jigz. If they can grab a few more towers, get some free global gold, maybe even get this Fire Giant and slow down Trifecta, CLG have a chance to get right back on even footing. We were just pronouncing CLG dead, essentially, and they make a huge stand on the Phoenix, and now with a chance to push back against Trifecta.
Too aggressive. They need to take 2 steps back and reflect upon what they did on the right side Phoenix, because if that happens again...
Putting them in the corner, Tully? You giving a timeout?
Oh yeah, they need to go on like about a 30-minute timeout. There's levels to it.
Yeah, think about what it is that they did here, but you're right, Tully. What went so wrong in that push on the Phoenix?
They just were on different targets. Scary D was zoning so far away. He was almost at the fountain, basically, while Paul was at the very bottom of the right side Phoenix trying to duke it out with Hurriwind. Would have found the trade kill with the Percussive Storm until the Aegis at the last second out of Hurriwind. Nice display of mechanics out of the Ullr mid, but CLG with a great hold, a good bounce back. You got to give credit to them because also, fineokay dashes back in when he was at half health to prevent any sort of additional follow from Trifecta's backline.
Fight in the jungle against a Fire Giant team. They
Jigz
push back in Jigz. He is going up into the Draconic Corruption. That means Snoopy's free to take some shots, but Metyankey takes Jigz down already. Snoopy goes up and right back down so that he can roll away, but Scary D is going to be the front line, and he's not afraid. Blinks, push, and that's going to set up the shot. Scary D takes Snoopy out of there as well. Next target going to be Homiefe, and he's got to jump away.
Trying to jump away with the Mystic Rush, buying time, but is it going to be enough? Because it's a 5-on-3 advantage without Jigz and Snoopy. I don't know if CLG can hold on to their own Titan.
Wow.
Trifecta, if they really wanted to, they could just end right now.
And I think that's going to be the call. CLG very, very close to trying to defend this. Their game on the line. Titan down to half health now. fineokay forced back into the fountain. 20%. It's just too much. Trifecta take the set over CLG. 2-1. Way to play.
Despite that one little lapse of judgment in the right side, Phoenix, Trifecta playing lights out, near perfect game.
Yeah, and CLG, I mean, they had a chance there right at the end. They get the Fire Giant, a great defense, but even better recognition from Trifecta that they can just go force the end, basically, even against the Fire Giant.
A great showing from Paul in the mid lane, a great showing from Metyankey, switching back to his natural hunter position. A lot of hope for this Trifecta team, I think, in the weeks to come.
I think so. If I'm Space Station, if I'm United, I got my eyes on this Trifecta roster. They are certainly going to be tough if they're up against you on the other side, and you're not going to want to play against them.
Definitely not, and I'm curious to see how CLG kind of bounce back from this, because they started off the spring split very strong, but then they faltered. Maybe they need this loss to kind of kick themselves in the butt and then move forward and learn from it to prevent these kind of mistakes in weeks 2 and onward.
That's right, and this is not the first time we've seen a team start off well, so this is not it for Trifecta. They got to make sure that they keep this same momentum going for them. But chat, I got to ask you, who was your MVP that game? Make sure you're voting for us in the Mixer poll. There's plenty of good candidates. I mean, there was no one who could stand against Scary D.
Outside of Scary D diving the fountain, he played lights out.
Oh,
honestly.
yeah.
I really like the way he's zoning a lot of these targets, finding the pulls and the pushes. He just needs to make sure that he respects when he's needed also in the back line. The way he handled that right side Phoenix Siege was less than adequate at an SPL standard.
Yeah, and that was part of where I thought the miscommunication was. He really all-in'd fineokay, but the ultimate didn't come from Mask until, like, way later. And then that's when it comes out, and it was already too late to commit onto him. I think miscommunication on that one fight almost hurt them.
CLG almost bounced back from there. They tried to go for the Fire Giant, but CLG couldn't really handle some of the aggression. Jigz got caught out. The amount of damage that this Raijin provides for Paul might awaken some eyeballs that Raijin is still a solid pick.
Well, what a big game, totally. I know you and I could sit here and talk about it for the rest of the day, I'm sure, but we'll let the desk go ahead and break it down.
Thanks a lot, guys. Fantastic stuff. And Trifecta making it rain. Big boy stuff coming out of this squad. CLG, unfortunately, faltering in the last minutes.
They came in making a statement. This is a pretty huge set win for them. I know that it's only the first week of the summer split, but still, going up against CLG and managing to actually topple them, and they were a pretty veteran roster and also a very formidable opponent. So Trifecta, clearly, that roster swap starting to work out. 90,000
damage. This is actually, there was no impact on the game whatsoever, but I like this fun fact. Game number 2 and game number 3, CLG does 69,000 team player damage. Just interesting tidbit right there. Still not enough to topple the red, white, and black. Trifecta all shook up today. This roster change seems to be working out.
I think another part of CLG's downfall here, though, was Game 2 and 3. We didn't really get a chance to bring it up before entering Game 3, but they kept throwing fineokay onto these Guardian solo laners against the Warriors, and I just couldn't understand it for the life of me. It made zero sense because he has such a great game on the Warrior Hercules. Then he gets tossed onto 2 really passive Guardians in the laning phase. Scary D, of course, is going to brutally manhandle that lane, which he did end up doing, and then he ends up helping his team carry the game.
Yeah, a little bit rough there for fineokay. That was definitely a team decision, I think. I don't think fineokay volunteered to go ahead and pick those. And at the end of the day, method behind the man is like, we understand why the Guardian was selected in the grand scheme of the picks. We just think that the whole draft should have been different to allow him to play something powerful.
It does make sense. Don't get me wrong. I can totally see the viability behind wanting those Guardians for the teamfight acquisition, especially considering that in Game 3 they tried to run the double hunter, so you kind of have to make up for that magical elsewhere. Otherwise, you just end up with full physical defense. on the enemy team, but it just feels like rough stuff for fineokay, because I think that Scary D would have been a lot more in check, if not like beaten by fineokay in the laning phase. I just really wish he would have had a chance to be able to actually play more aggressive on a warrior.
I've got to agree, because across the way, his lane opponent, Scary D, winds up with the MVP. Fantastic stuff out of this young guy. And honestly, Scary D, I mean, it's funny. I've done this before in my career with Variety, where I was not really high on Variety, and then he came out and sort of proved me wrong the next year. Well, this is Scary D's time to shine. I have been very critical of this kid, and the fall split last year into the spring and summer here, Scary D has looked fantastic.
I think there's something to be said as well for players, too, that we can definitely tell have the potential to be more. They're just not fully encompassing that.
Yeah.
And Scary D, to me, is a player that has certainly grown a little bit more. I mean, he did have that heavy lull. He had the show up at Worlds, and it's like, oh my God, Scary D is the greatest player of all time. And then suddenly it's like, Ronnie, what are you doing? You're probably trolling right now. It looks like you're trolling right now. And it seems as though he's finally back to his old self stride of actually being able to be a reliable member of his team, I think, consistently performing well.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to really watch him transform. And across the way, I mean, talk about a transformation as well. Counter Logic Gaming, not as strong. I mean, in the spring split, they didn't make the LAN, and that was a surprise. You watch these guys be very, 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 I don't have enough varies to explain how strong they were. And they didn't make LAN, and that was a surprise to a lot of people. Trifecta not making LAN, not so much a surprise. These guys were on two ends of the spectrum, and Trifecta come back. They don't just win here, Taco. I think they win and make a statement.
It's debatable, though, I think, because towards the end, Trifecta didn't really have the easiest pan out or the easiest pathway
straight to schedule
into the LAN. So I think that they started to gear up, and then it just kind of flopped for them. And so it was like the effort was there, but the results just weren't. Yeah. And I can respect that of the team, but I think that here, I totally agree with you. This was a very heavy statement against the, I think, top end of the SPL, because some teams might not be taking Trifecta as seriously, considering that Paul is like not the greatest reputation player in the Smite scene, and so he's clearly trying to revamp that, and I think this is a strong way to do that. But you also do have to just have some heavy concerns. CLG just, I think the mid lane is where it really broke down in games 2 and 3. Hurry looked fantastic on the Giannis in game 1. He was able to avoid a lot of that aggression from Paul, but when he tried to, in game 2, he just wasn't able to really do anything with that raw. In game 3, he actually tried to butt heads, though, with Paul, taking the Ullr. That's a very aggressive god in the mid lane, and yet he still came up short. It felt as though a lot of emphasis was placed towards that mid lane as well, so I don't think that it's necessarily a pure faulting against Hurriwind, but he just didn't really seem to know what to do against that level of aggression from Trifecta. And don't get me wrong, that could be difficult to handle when you're just getting smothered off nonstop.
I mean, is there another mid laner that's as aggro as Paul is? Is there that
possibly
aggressive
Baskin.
a mid laner? Yeah, sure. Baskin. Honestly, I think Baskin is the only mid laner that dials it up that hard. And to Paul's credit, because I think it's scary when you're that aggressive, to Paul's credit, one of the bigger concerns that I think a lot of people had here was that he was going to maintain his minor league play style and be hyper aggressive and maybe over aggressive. And I think he called that a little bit. He had moments where he palled out. Is that how you said it last time?
It's definitely called appalling.
He definitely had moments where he palled out, but I think this was a more professional look for the mid laner.
It did seem it did seem like a great gameplay from Paul, but it's just one of those things where you're not really certain, because I think a lot of the European teams, especially when they were here at the LAN, they constantly talked about how aggressive NA just seems to be in general, but I think in these sets you can start to see where some of that aggression really tends to take place.
Sure.
Mid lane especially, I don't think NA likes to play it passive, which is why I'm a bit surprised that everyone kind of just was left on the back foot here.
Sure. Trifecta making their roster changes looked good. Paul in the mid lane, Metyankey on the side. This new roster for Trifecta, their debut today, give them a letter grade, Taco.
A-. I think it was a really strong performance out of everybody from Trifecta. clearly still some things that they needed to work on, though, as there were moments where you weren't entirely certain if they were actually going to be able to close it out. I think with a little bit more experience, though, and some more time to just get the team as a whole to mold and blend together a bit better, it's only going to get better over time, which I think overall is the general idea that Trifecta were looking for in the first place.
Very excited to see this. I did get an opportunity to speak to some of the people at Trifecta, and although they were sad to see Zapman go and they wish him the best, hopefully he does find a home somewhere else. They're very excited about this roster going forward, and honestly, I am too. I think this might be the move for Trifecta to be one of the more competitive teams in North America. Moving on to our second set of the day, Luminosity Gaming